You
Thank
got me.
you. Yeah, thank you so much, Sean, for joining us.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Coach Keeny, by the way, for all you young players out there, Coach Keeny, let me introduce you real quick because there's several players watching right now,
Okay.
and they're going to be excited to ask you some questions. So, but first we have he's the pitching coach for the University of Georgia, where they got as high as number two in the nation. He previously spent 5 seasons at the University of Michigan, and in 2016, his pitching staff ranked first in the Big Ten in fewest hits allowed, second in strikeouts. Before that, he was at the University of Maryland, where his pitcher staff was third best in the conference. And in his first year at Maryland, his staff set a school record with 464 strikeouts. Before that, he spent 6 seasons at Pepperdine. He coached Paul Coleman, Barry Enright. Those are players I played against. I know those guys pretty well.
That's
And
right.
and that's where we played against each other. That's how we have the mutual connection as far as my coach too.
Yep.
And before Pepperdine, he was the pitching coach at University of San Diego. And as far as his playing career, he went to Eastern Michigan from 91 to 93. And in 92 was an all-MAC pitcher, all-MAC pitcher, conference pitcher, and he was drafted by the New York Mets. So I want to thank you for joining. I know there's a lot of pitchers here, young pitchers, and I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions to ask you in a second. So
Sure.
um, I have a lot of questions, just quite a few questions. These are from like parents and friends and stuff. So let's start off with the COVID-19 situation. By the way, sorry about the situation. You guys were rolling. And let's talk about the COVID-19, how that changed the landscape of like,
Yeah.
your whole situation.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time. There's no playbook for this one. Normally as players and coaches, we know there's basically three versions of our year, right? There's the off season, which for us is recruiting. And then there's the fall, which you kind of know exactly what every day in the fall is going to be. And then there's the season, and then you know exactly how that's going to go. So that's how our lives are kind of run, is every day is the same day. And now, I'm painting tables and chairs and power washing and mulching, and that's about it. And you try to make a couple calls to your players each day just to stay connected. And of course, they're asking what they should do, and just outside of staying in shape, there's no real solid answer for them, which is crazy.
I know. I was just thinking about my situation. If I was there, if I was a junior getting ready to get drafted, like what am I thinking at this time? How is that gonna, how is it gonna play out? Are they gonna even have a draft? I know you probably don't have those answers, but those are just things going through my head.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. We've got two potential first rounders on this staff, and you just don't really know what to tell them. There's going to be at least 5 rounds. It sounds like. I would imagine maybe it gets to 10, but boy, that affects, as you know, a lot of good players who will have to go the free agent route, which is too bad.
Yeah, that's terrible. And are those players? Is it a pitcher or is the position player? Both of those players.
Both pitchers, and obviously very good. And I think their standing, their stock is solidified. They'll be fine. But as you know, there's a lot of other good players that can be signed anywhere from the what it used to be the 12th to the 20th round can end up in the big leagues. And that's kind of where scouts make their name, are drafting those guys. And so it's trickled down. It affects a lot of people for sure.
My question is, those 2 first rounders, did you recruit those guys?
Well, I'd love to be able to tell you yes, but no. They were already Bulldogs when I took the job. One was incoming freshman, and one was a senior in high school. So I guess I helped with the senior in high school. But man, I'd love to be able to say, yeah, oh yeah, I knew they were going to be first rounders from day one, and but that would not be the truth. But I was fortunate. I got to coach one for 3 years, and one was 2-year draft eligible sophomore, and boy, they're special kids.
You definitely helped in developing them. I mean, a coach at a college helps develop. I know Coach Green, that's our mutual,
Yeah.
our mutual friend. He's helped me a ton. Coach Shine and Coach Savage. So
Yep.
they do a lot as far as helping you develop. And I know there's a few players on here that are going D1. They're watching right now, and they're interested to get your take on that whole world and developing a player.
Yeah, sure.
So now let's talk about your team. You guys are ranked as high as number 2 in the nation. You guys were playing good. Tell us a little about your team and what made your team gel together.
Yeah, it was such an easy team to coach, which it's too bad. Is it was they were self starters. They were self motivated. They didn't need a lot of help from us. Our job really was to just plan their day for them and stay out of their way, because it was an older group. It was younger on the mound, but we had such strong older leadership. Even the sophomores were seasoned because they had played, and so special team, special group. And I think that's the key, as you remember as a player, is guys that have common goal of winning and being a good team. It becomes about that, and that's what we talk to them about all the time. Is if you go around our diamond in our positions, our best players were also our best students, and that's, we didn't really know that until we started going around. The infield, we're like, man, that guy's a 3-3, he's a 3-2, he's a 3-1, that guy's a 3-8. Our 2 first rounders are both 4-0s, 3-9s, accounting majors. So what that does, it doesn't mean everybody needs to be a 4-0 student. You just have to be the best version of yourself, and that's all we asked our guys to do. And really what that comes down to means you're really good at time management. It means you're really good at being focused on what things are important. And when you can do that, both on and off the field, then you're part of a special group.
So I want to talk about the GPA, because a lot of parents ask me this question. I think it's ridiculous, but it should come out of your mouth to answer. It says, how much does a parent, or not that one, do you look for players with only a 3.0 to 3.5 GPA? Because they think that if a player has a 4.0, they can't go to your school because you're not looking for that type of player. So you basically busted that myth right now, but Explain more about that.
Well, you know what, I will say this. I think that's one thing. This is my 24th year coaching, and that's what's changed, I think, the most, outside of just the physical strength of these kids now. But it's hard to find kids now who aren't really good students. It really is. The kids that aren't very good students are kind of a smaller percentage now. I think in that, I actually think that social media and all the things that are out there now, the exposure has really helped that, because now it's a competition. Kids don't want to have a bad GPA all over the internet or all over Perfect Game or whatever it is. So that part has really helped step up the academics. And that, on top of that, it's just getting harder to get into schools. So they have to be better students. But for us, the GPA, there's no, 4.0 is great. We love it. That means that kid is focused. He knows how to handle his time. He knows how to manage a lot of things going on at the same time and still be good at things. And so, like I said, our team, our starting 9 was full of elite students.
That's amazing. Congrats on that. I know Coach Savage was big on that when I was there, and I'm sure it's only getting better now. Let's go back to the pitching side. With aluminum bats, pitching is very important. So talk about your pitching philosophy.
Yeah, that's changed too, even from when you were playing. In California, it was such a command breaking ball league, and that doesn't mean guys weren't throwing hard, because they were. But the SEC, and I think just in general, baseball now is, you got to be able to throw it by people, and that doesn't mean that command and being able to spin it has gone away, because it hasn't. But it's trending more towards physicality, and same on the position player side. The home run is up, as we know. But I get that question all the time is, hey, how hard do I need to throw to be considered? And there's still not a number. I think 90 is still the number that we all look for. But, we're our league especially, there's a lot more 94s and 95s than there are 84s and 85s. And so it's a throw it by people, get them to pop it up type of league now, where before you could kind of trick people with the changeup and the curveball, and you still can do that. You can. But the players have gotten more physical over time just because I think they know how to become more physical. And there's so much more knowledge, and the strength coaches are so advanced. It's just kind of naturally happening. So, and everybody likes to look behind them and see 90s and 94s on that scoreboard.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what do you think about that as a pitching coach? What's your philosophy? Are you telling them, you know what, I still want you to throw hard, but I want you to command it? Or are you like, because you know how the older, like when I look at players, I'm like, you guys are just trying to hit bombs now. It's like you guys never even learned how to hit first before you turn, or change the barrel and start hitting homers. So like, you know what I'm saying? So you tell me.
I do, yeah. The same rules still apply. If you can't throw it over the plate, and I try to be real honest with our guys, is if you can't throw strikes, it's going to be hard for us to put you in the game. It is. So command still is the number one thing, and feel. Command and feel. Sometimes, you can have some feel and have a bad day, but you can tell a kid knows how to command baseball, and so. That's where it all starts. You have to be able to throw strikes, especially as a starter, especially as a high leverage reliever, closer, can't afford walks. I don't think that'll ever change. But I think there's ways to train velocity now more so, and there's more knowledge on how to do that. But it all starts with strike throwing.
What about the mental game when it comes to talking to your pitchers? What do you talk to them about?
Yeah, I think back to where I started coaching, the first 13 years out in California. I was really fortunate because that's where kind of all the mental game gurus started. And so I was fortunate to be around those people and learn from them. And so that's really important to me, especially when you play at a high level, as you know. You got to be able to block those eyeballs looking back at you, and that's really hard to do when you're on the mound and you're staring at a bunch of people staring back at you. And so not everybody handles that the same way. And so there has to be tools in place to handle that, whether that be a meaningful deep breath or a routine or whatever it is. And there's a reason, as you know, that every pitch takes 30 seconds in the big leagues, because those guys know how important every single pitch, every single swing is, that they have to prepare themselves accordingly. And so we try to do that at a lesser level, and we spend time on it. We practice it. It's just like fielding in a bunt or a pick for us. You got to spend time to be good at it. This
is just me just throwing a curveball out there right now. How long were your games? Because when I was with Coach Savage, our games would be 3.5 hours every game. We used to tell Coach Savage, hey man, like speed it up. We know 2-0 fast. He's going to throw a fastball 2-0. Like, why are we doing this over here? And he used to laugh at when I used to tell him that. But
Coach Savage is on the high end of game time for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
There are several young players watching. What would be your advice to young high school pitchers?
Get in the weight room. And that's, like I said, the physicality now has changed. I'm jealous. I wish I had that when I was playing. Get in the weight room, be comfortable in the weight room, understand nutrition. Make sure you're eating every 3 hours, which I'm sure is not hard for young people to do. If I did that, I'd blow up. But really do a good job researching nutrition, really do a good job researching strength and conditioning. There's so much good information out there, but that will prepare you for your first year. That's the biggest adjustment, is when our freshmen come in, they can't believe what's happening in the weight room, and it just takes them a while. So do a great job with nutrition and strength and conditioning, and you'll put yourself in a really good position to be ready to roll.
Yeah, I remember that first week I was sore oh man, I could barely walk up the stairs to my dorm. Um, Another
Yep.
question. When it comes to recruiting pitchers, I guess you already answered this, but I'll ask it again. What do you look for? Is there a specific checklist criteria you go off? Like what will open your eyes when it comes to a player?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you, I'll give you an answer outside of the obvious, but the, the physical traits, whether it be speed or strength or velocity or a defensive tool, that always sticks out. You watch. Well, I'll put it this way: when we're out watching games, we need somebody to stick out, and there's different ways to stick out. Our second baseman is he's a freshman, switch hitting freshman. He might be 5'7". I think they list him 5'8", but he's probably 5'6". I would say on a good day. And we watched him play, and we knew we had to have him right away, just because he had things that everybody else didn't have. Whether he had a defensive tool, plays really hard, things like that. So you don't have to be 6'2". I think we'd all like that, but you have to have a physical trait that sticks out, a baseball trait that sticks out. And then the obvious from there is are you going to play hard? Because we don't have time to teach you effort. We just don't. And we shouldn't have to. And so I think that effort needs to just be a given. But can you make us notice you on the baseball field? I think that's the best answer.
That's an amazing answer. And I like to tell them, the people that are watching, they get it. They know I said the same exact thing to them. First thing they say to me is, oh, I'm not hitting for power. Or I'm not throwing 100 miles an hour. So it was great to hear you basically reaffirming that. Um, let's go to the recruiting side. At what age can you expect to be recruited or looked at from you guys?
Yeah, that part's changed too. I remember watching you maybe as a junior, and it was just starting to get going. And now you would have been committed to UCLA as a sophomore, and maybe even as a freshman, to be honest. And that's where it is. I think we have 5 freshman commits, which is crazy. It's crazy to me. And so
yeah, that's insane to me too.
And I think if you get every coach in an honest moment, we would tell you that's not a healthy model. But it's just the way it is now. And so I think to give you an average answer, I think the sophomore year is a marquee year. Certainly the summer after your sophomore year is when it will start to get going. Now, what I will say on the other side is you don't need to panic, because the other way it's changed now is everybody is recruiting at a high level. Junior colleges, Division III schools, Division II schools. I see everybody out all the time. So there is a place for everybody now. I truly believe that. And so, I think the SECs and the Pac-12s of the world, they're picking guys off their sophomore year, but then it kind of settles down, and then you've got plenty of time for other really high-level schools to have a chance to watch even in your junior year.
So, what showcases can they get exposure? I guess that's the biggest question. I know that they're all watching. They're like, what? How do they get exposure? Is it showcases? Is it video? Is it email? Is it your camps? Can you talk about how do you guys go about recruiting?
I still think it's the obvious ones. It's the perfect game tournaments. It's the PBR tournaments now, which have really grown and become reputable. Though the showcases there's still a bunch of value in that. There really are. You have to be careful with how many you go to, and do a good job researching and asking questions. But those are valuable for sure. I think with camps you have to do the same thing. You have to make sure that the camps that you go to, that those schools are viable options for you, so you don't end up going to 10. That's a big expense. So research if you fit those schools before maybe you go to those camps, and because they're extremely valuable, they're good, and schools are doing a good job with them now. But you just got to be careful, because you can end up with a major expense if you're going to 8-10 of them. So I think everything you said is the way to go. But narrow it down and be strategic and do research before you sign up for all those things. But the PBRs and the perfect games, the tournaments and the showcases they run are very good. There's other good ones out there that can't remember all the names of them, but then kind of narrow it down, maybe 2 to 3 to 4 college camps that you feel like you have a chance to be a part of, and then those are good options.
Awesome. So should they recruit or contact you or wait to be recruited?
Yeah, I think it's okay to reach out. It is, because what especially if you're thinking about going to that college's camp, that's a good time to reach out, because it kind of puts you on the radar with maybe a video clip. Say, hey, coach, I've always wanted to come to this school. I'm planning on coming to your camp. Just let you know, here's a little video clip. And that at least kind of makes us put a star by your name, saying, hey, this guy's interested and he's reached out. That's helpful for sure. There's really no downside in reaching out to the schools that you're interested in. I wouldn't always expect a response. If I responded to every one of my email, I wouldn't have time to coach.
Yeah, go ahead, continue.
The hard part. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing, or I was confirming that, because Coach Savage told me he gets about 300 emails a day.
Yeah.
And
I've stopped trying to respond, and it's not personal. It's not anything like that. I have to prioritize it, but it doesn't mean we don't read them, because we do. And that helps us recognize names moving forward.
Are there any apps that you guys use that, maybe you guys see their times or stuff like that, because some people are selling that, like, oh, we could get you into a D1 by getting you some video online,
Yeah, we don't, I'm not familiar with too many apps outside of the obvious. We still scour Perfect Game. We scour Prep Baseball Report, things like that. We're looking at the rankings. We're looking at the blogs of the tournaments and stuff like that. So we're definitely on the internet. It's made it a lot easier for us to identify, especially people in our state that maybe we have missed, and then we can start researching it from there. But yeah, we're out there, and that's where these recruiting services kind of get you, is if you go to their showcase, then they're going to write a blog on you, and there's some serious value in that.
Okay, I'm gonna switch it over because there's some parents on here. How much does a parent/family play a part in the recruiting process? Can a parent affect the recruiting process?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think one of my favorite things to do is to watch parents in the stands during summer travel ball stuff, because you see and hear just about everything. It's quite entertaining, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's good. So you really have to be aware, and it's hard because it's emotional, and you're invested in it, and you want your kid to do so well, so badly. But you got to really watch it. You got to be careful, because I'm spending time watching the stands, and then, if something sticks out, either good or bad, then I kind of follow the parent to see whose kid's attached. And that's a real thing. I'm not the only one doing that. So you just want to make sure that when we have a conversation with, amongst ourselves in the meetings, you just want to say, hey, he's a good kid with a really good family. You just want to make sure that's the answer. And that's the case 99% of the time. You just want to make sure you don't stick out in the stands. Cheering and going crazy and being pumped is awesome, and you should do that. You just got to be careful, because we can hear a lot of other stuff.
Yeah. So I have like a few kids on here. I guess they want to ask a few questions. So
Sure.
let's get unmute. Jay, what's going on?
Hi, Coach Curtis.
And we're
Coach
here with Coach Keeny. So ask your question.
My first question is, what can I do now to prepare myself to play at the college level?
Yeah, I think going back to what I said before, I think you do a really, really good job in the weight room, do a really good job with your nutrition. and it sounds obvious, right? It sounds like an obvious answer, but it's not easy to be awesome at that and play a lot of baseball. We're fortunate in this game. You can play a bunch, and you still got to build in rest. But once this craziness slows down, just be ready to jump back in and play a lot of baseball, and that'll increase your exposure.
Do you have
Thank
another question, Jay?
Yeah, I do. So, is there what do I need to do to be valued by your staff? Like, what kind of things are you looking for? Is there something in particular that you are looking for in a player that really stands out that makes you want to recruit that player?
He's a catcher, by the way. He's a catcher.
Yeah, well, the good thing is if you're a pitcher, a catcher, and a shortstop, you're ahead of the game because there's such a high need at all those positions. I don't have a magic answer outside of the obvious. You just, like I talked about before, just try to do something in every game you play that makes us kind of perk up. And then as a kid, it doesn't mean hit homers. It doesn't mean you have to hit a bunch of doubles in the gap all the time because baseball's hard. It's not how it works. But well, put it this way. Do I never see your face as you're running for a ball back to the backstop? Are you blocking everything? Are you back picking? Are you playing aggressive? Are you showing your arm strength? There's a lot of ways as a catcher to make us pay attention. And most of them are obvious, as you know, but there's no real magic answer. Sometimes it's just, hey, we need a catcher, and sometimes we just don't. But sometimes my favorite recruiting opportunities are when I'm going out to look for a pitcher, and I stumble on a position player that we just have to have. And so maybe that's the best way I can answer is just make us have to have you somehow.
That's
Thank
amazing.
You. Yeah, it is.
Hey, thanks for that, Jay. So I'm going to mute you. AM, I'm bringing AM. So what's your question, AM?
My question is, with the whole coronavirus situation and everything else going on, what are steps we can take, especially as a junior when this was a big year?
That's tough, man. That's a good question. I think you just have to prepare for this thing to end and just make sure that when it does end, you don't need 3-4 weeks to get yourself going. Baseball's an everyday sport, and you just have to find a way to stay in that routine. Just stay in the everydayness of it. Whether it's old school, you're throwing the ball off the side of the house and you're fielding ground balls, or you're hitting wiffle balls into a net in your garage. You just have to make sure, especially with your timeline, that when they say go play, you don't need 2 weeks to round back into shape. And that's kind of what we're telling our guys too, is, hey, I don't know when you're going to be able to play, but when it's time, you have to be ready, because they're going to go out to summer ball, and if they don't perform, they won't play. And so you don't want to be in that position, and won't be quite as hardcore for you guys, I hope. But stay ready would be my best advice, because you're right. This is a big year for you for sure.
And do you have any other question, AM?
No, thank you.
Let's go to Brian.
Hey, Coach.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? All right, so it's a long question. So how did you find so much success with the different teams throughout the different conferences that you coached for? I was more specifically to the pitching staffs.
Get really good players. That's the recruit like crazy and get good players. And that, I really mean that. And we sometimes coaches get a lot, or really caught up in how good they are and like to pat themselves on the back, and it comes down to getting really good players and us going out to watch you guys play and selecting the right fit and being able to surround yourself with guys who want to get better. That's the big thing is as a pitching coach, can I surround myself with guys who every single day want to get better, and that really is the answer. And you have to, I think, recruit to your own personality a little bit. You have to know the types of guys that you think you can help, and maybe sometimes pass on the guys that you're not sure you can. And we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but coaches are really smart when we have good players.
Do you have any other question, Brian?
I do, yeah. So I was just wondering if I know there's not one right answer, but I was wondering if you have like a most important aspect of developing pitchers that you like focus on.
Yeah, you know what? I always have a hard time answering that maybe a few years ago. But, you know, I think developing routines is maybe the best thing that we have done. And I don't mean kind of pitch to pitch routine, which is mental game stuff. I mean, do you know what you're going to do on every single day of the week? And that's really, really hard. And can you do the same thing on those days every single day? And our two first rounders are probably the best I've ever seen at that. They know on Monday they're going to do this, on Tuesday they're going to do this, Wednesday and so forth. You know, they know exactly how their week is going to go. They wear me out every Monday morning. All right, what's my week look like? And I have to have it ready for them, or they're going to give me a hard time. And so I think that's what, as I've grown as a coach, has gotten better. Is okay. You first of all, you got to learn your personnel, because not everybody does the same thing all the time. But can I help them develop a routine that's going to make them better? And it's different for relievers and starters and things like that, as you know. But I think that's maybe where we've excelled is trying to fit people into the right spot and then help them learn what their week is going to look like, and then make them stick to it.
Is that it, Brian?
Yeah, that is. Thank you.
Awesome. A few more questions, and I'll let you go on with your day. We have Dave. How we doing? And Paulie.
Hey, Jermaine, good. How about you, bud?
Doing good. Can you ask the question?
Yeah. Hey, Coach. I had a quick question. I actually coach a lot of these guys that are on this forum tonight,
Okay.
and my question was this: most of the guys on the team are juniors. We have some guys that have committed, and we have some guys that are looking to commit and play at a high level. Mm-hmm. So, what my concern is we lost the high school year for the most part, and if we lose the high school season, which it looks like we're gonna, how do we? I know there's going to be an eagerness, and we've been kind of discussing this a little bit. There's going to be an eagerness for these guys to go out, play as many tournaments as they can, as many games as they can. And for the pitchers especially, what's your advice? I know, like, we've practiced since November. We throw bullpens. We do some things to ramp the guys up. And then it gets to the point where we miss the whole high school season. So there's going to be a lull of, say, a couple months. Then you're going to be eager to just go out and play when we start back up and ramp it up and go nuts in these tournaments.
Yeah.
And because we haven't had the high school season and guys want to throw more than they typically have and be prepared for college, what's your advice to kind of take care of their arm?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's probably the $1 million question is how do we navigate this? And truth of the matter is I have no idea. I think you have to, or you got to take care of your arm just like you would any other season. Probably the only positive that's going to come out of this thing is I'm assuming they're going to extend the fall season to some, if there is a fall season, to where hopefully these guys can play a little bit longer in the fall. So the situation you're talking about doesn't happen where you have to cram 4 weeks of games in the month of August. And so
right.
I do think that you're going to have to protect them from themselves because, as you know, players want to play. And they're always going to tell you their arms are good. Our guys do it too. And it's our job, as you know, to take the ball away from them and say, I get it, I understand. Just got to take a couple of days off and we'll get back at it. And so I think you have to coach them. Just like you would any other time when it's time to go. I don't think you can try to do more. And I know I said once this thing's done, you got to play a lot of baseball. You do, but you still have to be smart because if you're not smart, you won't get to play because you'll be on the shelf. And so I tell our guys the same thing. Stay in shape, stay ready. And when the bell rings, you still have to keep yourselves under the same guidelines as you would if everything's normal. So, I hope that answers your question, but I think you're going to have to be real careful. That's a tough thing to navigate is, hey, we need to play a lot, but with pitchers especially, I don't think the guidelines can change. I think they have to be the same, whatever those are for you.
All right. Yeah, that did answer. Thanks. That was good.
Is there any more, Dave? Anything else?
Yeah, I was going to ask one other thing, and I'll just say this quickly. With today's decision with the NCAA granting another year of eligibility to everybody, is that how do you think that's going to affect the recruiting of say juniors that are on the team?
I do think it'll slow it down some. I know for us, and we haven't had this discussion, this is just my opinion, in the 2021 class, that's the juniors, right? 2021.
Yeah, that's my team. Yeah.
It's all a blur now for me. It will slow us down for sure, to make sure everything kind of settles in, which I think is a good thing for the player, for the 2021 recruit. I do.
Okay.
Because then you don't have to feel like you got to run around with your hair on fire. I think it'll make the spring of next year really important. And we don't get out and see a bunch of high school games because that's in the middle of our season. But I think that's about to change. I think, we're going to be on the road a lot more in the 2021 spring. So I think that'll help you guys, because you don't have to feel like you have to cram everything in a short amount of time. So I think it will slow, and then it will pick back up whenever that is, and it's going to be crazy.
Okay. Thanks a lot. That was good.
That's interesting. Let's go to Alan. How we doing, Alan?
Very good. Thanks for having me. The coach can see me. My son is a sophomore, just really starting to come into his own itself. So how do I know, or how can I have him evaluated to see if he's a top-notch Division I prospect, or even a Division prospect?
Yeah, I was losing you a little bit. I think the question I got was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is how do I get him evaluated to see if he's a prospect for whatever level that is? That's about right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's. I think for one, you need to kind of rely on your high school coach and your travel ball coach, because they've got a pretty good idea. Okay. I know sometimes when you're around somebody all that time, you forget that they might be a pretty good resource. And everybody wants to know what our opinion is, and sometimes those guys have great ones too. But so I would start there, honestly. Right. It doesn't mean that they're always going to be right, just like us. Sometimes you'll ask me, and I can tell you I just don't know, and I can be wrong. Right. So I think you have to do a good job of asking people you trust. But then the other side of that is, that's where picking those camps sometime is really helpful, to a couple schools that you may be interested in, even though you're not sure if it's a fit. We get those questions at our camp all the time, which is, hey, can you just tell me your honest opinion about where my son fits? And we'll tell you. Wouldn't mind doing that at all, as long as you're willing to listen to an answer that may not be what you're after. And then the other side of it is, you just gotta, I think you need to go out to a couple showcases like I talked about, and just ask them their opinion as well. I think it's just simple exposure and being willing to ask questions and listen to the answer.
Yeah, and we're definitely getting some CBR events, been down to some USA baseball events in Cary, North Carolina as well. Yeah. So starting to get some interest in things, but still early in the process as well. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, sure.
All right, a few more, and I'll let you go to your family. I know you, this is one of those times where you got to get away real quick, talk some baseball, but I know you need to get back to your family. So let me see a few more people. What about social media? Yeah, I forgot about that question. How does that affect the recruiting process, or does it help the recruiting process?
I think it can only hurt. And I love it. I'm not anti. I'm on it. I'm on Twitter all the time. It's the information superhighway. But you really got to watch it. We have classes kind of dedicated to social media education with our players, not just once a year, it's a couple times a year, where it's the do's and don'ts, and most of them are obvious. But just remember that once you hit send, everybody can see it. That's what we talk about all the time. And you can be joking around, but it may be something that you can't take back. So you just have to be really aware that everything that you like or retweet or whatever, it all has to be positive stuff, because we'll go through it. And if there's something that makes us nervous, that could honestly affect a decision one way or the other. So just make sure everything you're doing is positive and fun. You want to stay away from controversial stuff. You probably want to stay away from hardcore opinions, because even though you may be right, somebody may disagree with you, and that may affect your opportunity, and you just don't want that to be the case. So just make sure everything's positive.
Yeah, I was thinking about that now with that new NCAA. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's kind of going in and out. It's kind of going in and out. Well, but yeah, I was thinking about that situation about being online and, can it help a player or hurt a player? And what do you guys think about all those things, So I appreciate you jumping on. Tell me, just before we get out of here, what's like one of your best stories as far as college baseball? One of your favorite stories, or what about a little rival that we had when you were at Pepperdine? I was at UCLA. Is there anything that like sticks out?
Yeah, when we beat you in our regional, that sticks out. Yeah. And then I remember, I'll never forget this. We Paul Coleman beat you. And it was at Pepperdine, and we were, for people that haven't been to Pepperdine, it's in Malibu, and it's really hard to get to. And I think there was probably a whopping 750 people in the stands. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember.
Kind of the way it was. It was a good baseball game with a lot of good players, a lot of guys that made it to the big leagues. And I'll never forget Brian Green, kind of after we beat you guys, said, hey, you guys are going to go to a super regional. We still had to win. Missouri had to beat us twice.
That's right.
And they did. And Max Scherzer was on that team.
I do remember
it just shows you how crazy baseball is. Coach Green is congratulating me, and we never got there. It's just how crazy baseball is. But if you remember that regional had some unbelievable players. It was UCLA, Pepperdine, UC Irvine, and Max Scherzer and the Missouri Tigers, who were the 4 seed, which was ridiculous. But they ended up that whole roster was littered with big leaguers. But that was a good time in college baseball. And
what about have you been to the World Series lately, or the last few years, or is there any accomplishment that you kind of remember that like stuck out? You said beating us. I know if I call Coach Savage and Coach Green right now, they'll be probably butthurt about that. But what about any other accomplishment? Yeah. What did you say?
I've never made it to Omaha as a coach, and I've always told myself, probably childishly, that I'll never go until I go and coach a team. Now at Michigan, our Big Ten tournament was in Omaha at TD Ameritrade for 2 of the years I was there, and that was really, really cool. So you got a taste of it. But I told myself I'm not going to go there and watch games. It just will be too hard for me to watch, because I'll be jealous, and that's childish, and I'm okay with it. And I think it's still kind of the driving force. We all coach and play to win at the highest level, and so that's something that I've never been able to do. And our head coach and our other assistant coach have been there when they were at Kent State, so they make sure to rub that in to me every single day.
Hey, you guys probably could have been World Series champs this year. You guys were on the road to it.
Yeah, we had good players, and that's the hard part. And we're not the only team with who probably feels that way, but that's what's nuts about just this whole situation. No, like I said, no playbook for it.
We have one question left. It's from Rich Howe. He's a Michigan fan, and he said, "What's the connection to Michigan?"
Well, I grew up there. I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, so I was a Wolverine fan and diehard Maize and Blue before I ever even coached there. So, my high school was right across the street from the big house, and I went to college 5 miles down the road at Eastern Michigan, and I was fortunate in this. Said I've been really lucky along the way to actually get to coach at the University of Michigan for 5 years, when I'm the biggest fan in the city. My week is ruined when the football team loses, so, and it's still that way. And so I'm a Wolverine through and through, always will be. I still root for those guys every time they play in just about every sport. So, that's the connection.
Me and him were going back at it last year when UCLA played Michigan. And you remember that I guess it was the Super Regionals. And so me and him kept going back at it, and I'm like, UCLA is going to beat them. And then the whole time I'm just yelling back and forth at the screen, like, What's going on? What? You know what I mean? And, but yeah, it was a fun little time. So, but well, all right. Well, thank you so much. The internet's kind of going back and forth, so I'm going to end it. But what can I do to help you guys? I know that you guys are, it's this time I could keep my eyes and ears open for you guys as far as players go. Just is there anything I could do to help you guys? I appreciate you for jumping on, so I just want to return that favor. Is it working?
Appreciate it. I'm happy to help, and glad we could do this.
All right, thank you. It's going in and out. I think it is going in and out.
Okay, thank you, guys. See you, Jermaine. See you. Thank you.
Thank you.